Chapter 3, Editing Shape Proportions and Placement. By now, you should have plenty of shape breakdowns for you to choose from in order to do this next design assignment. As you see here, this is the type of work you would have done based on the previous two chapters. I have the traceover samples to the left, as well as the observational lay-ins to the right. So I want you to choose two of your favorite breakdowns, and we'll be doing several iterations based on what we've learned so far. We're going to strategically place objects or change their sizes in order to create a better composition with certain restrictions. So from the drawings I did, I went ahead and chose A and number 4 respectively. Now from here, I want you to put away all your references and images and just have the line drawing with the simple shapes showing. In order to do this correctly, we want to make sure we put our references away in order to do this assignment properly. The main thing about the kind of editing I want you all to do is similar to what we did last week with the design assignment and doing thumbnails with different shapes. But instead of just going with our gut feelings, we're actually going to have design goals and certain restrictions. So we're going to be editing two things. We are going to be editing size by making something bigger or smaller. We're also going to be editing placement. Okay. What we are not editing is changing the shape. Okay. So we are only changing the size, the relative placement, but not the shape itself. Now that we've gotten some of the rules out of the way, we're going to start talking about the design goals. We're going to do 3 different iterations, and each one will have a very specific goal. So for the first 2 design goals, you're going to pick a specific focal point from the image that you chose. Now it's up to you which shape you want to choose, just as long as the first and the second one are different. So it's up to you to fill in this blank. For the first one, I'm going to go ahead and pick the triangle. From there, I really want to think about how I want to make that my focal point. So when I sketch out my thumbnail, I might have to recrop and also even think about the aspect ratio I'm going to use. Since the triangle is a pretty tall object, I will think about using a more vertical, just like in the previous demo. Okay, so from here, I'm going to place it closer to center, a little bit to the right, and make sure it takes up as much as the page as possible. Now from there, I'm going to have the box shape that's off to the side, that's quite cropped off, as well as the circle. Now from here, I have a little bit of an issue where the circle and the triangle kind of take the same amount of stage presence because they're both not cropped off the same way that the box shape is. So what I'm going to do is move it more to the left and even increase its size just so most of it is cropped off to the edge. Now from there, I'm going to include the part of the background and just clean up my image. So as you see here, unlike the other two shapes, the triangle is taking up most of the image. So for me, this is working pretty well, and I'm pretty satisfied with achieving my design goal. So pretty simple. All right, so the next one, let's go ahead and pick a different shape. Now remember, the shadows are also a shape that we broke down, and I'm actually going to pick one of those. So I'm going to pick the shadow of the circle. Again, this one is way to the left, and I'm really going to have to recrop my image quite a bit. So from here, I want to make sure it takes up a good amount of space. As I continue to draw the circle, sometimes it's best to even draw outside of the frame, just to get a better sense of the shape. So that one went a little bit too large, maybe around there. Because whether you're doing this in pencil or Photoshop, it's really easy to clean up your image. Okay, so from here, just like in the previous one where the circle was kind of competing with the triangle, and this one the shadow in the back is competing a little bit with the shadow for the circle. So what I'm going to do is completely trim that line out and increase the size of that shadow. So that way, if this were to turn into a painting, I have these two large shapes, which is the circle and the shadow in the back here. But this one feels a little bit more complete while the rest is cropped off. So for me, this one feels a lot more important and definitely becomes the focal point. For this third and final goal, we are going to do something a bit different. So as you see here, the sentence is more about feeling. Unlike these two, which is filling in the noun or the what, we are really starting to think about the emotion and how we want our audience to feel. So for this one, it can be a little bit more challenging, and it might take a little bit more time than just picking a shape. So if you need to, take a look at a thesaurus or maybe listen to some music on how you want this image to come out. For this demonstration, I'm going to be using the word heaviness in order to describe the feeling I want to evoke. You could use either a noun or an adjective to fill in the blank here. Now, when I think of something that feels heavy, usually most of the weight is on top. If you can imagine carrying something with a lot of force, usually things will feel like they're toppling over or something's over your head. Now, this is a bit more abstract, but this is also where things get pretty fun. So for this one, what I'm going to do is try to be really careful with my placement and how I'm going to crop this image. From here, I'm going to place all these objects on the top end to make it feel top heavy, and keep the bottom area a lot lighter. So from here, I'm going to really try to clutter the top area here with these shapes. Again, drawing outside the frame so I can get a better sense of where things are in relation to each other. And then from there, just cleaning it up. So as you see here, what I did was really put all my objects on the top of this frame and leave the bottom area empty. It kind of feels top heavy, where if this was all lit with a, so if this was all lit in a painting, this would feel pretty dark and heavy on top, where the bottom wouldn't be rendered out so much. And from there you'll have 3 designs, just changing the placement, framing, and sizes and proportion of these shapes. Alright, so we're finally in the last demonstration here, and I've decided to go ahead and drink a ton of coffee in order to get through it a lot quicker. So this is me drawing in real time, not holding back, and just having a ton of fun. Joking aside, this is the same approach where you want to take your time and really pick your goals for your designs here. And as you can see, I've decided to choose the landscape. And the biggest challenge was the type of shapes. So it's a lot more complex than the still life. So you'll see me here struggling just a bit on deciding what shapes to use, because I didn't want to change the shape so much like I mentioned earlier. I want to just change the size and placement. So in the background I was stretching it out as much as I can without losing the integrity of the shapes. And just like that, that will wrap up week 2. I hope you found this design assignment fun like I did. Just remember to try your best when designing these shapes and moving them around. And the thing with design is it's all problem solving. As long as you have a clear goal in mind, there might be several solutions to that problem. There isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer here. Just give it your best shot. Just be patient, and I know this might be very new to a lot of people. Even though this is a beginner course, I feel like it's really important that we flex our design muscles and really use our creative freedom as much as we can. With that in mind, keep up the hard work, and I'll see you on the next one.